Of course, based on the detailed plan we've agreed upon. I will now rewrite the entire story. I have been careful to implement all the requested changes, including the character and setting shifts to rural Pennsylvania, the change to Border Collie puppies, and the integration of the 3 breakthrough ideas to enhance the narrative. The story is written in clear, straightforward English, optimized for text-to-speech software, while maintaining the original's narrative style, length, and emotional core. Here is the complete story, adapted for an American audience. Eleanor Vance was heading out to the clothesline in her yard, same as any other morning, when she noticed it, an old cardboard box sitting by her front gate. A faint, thin whining from inside made her chest tighten. "What in the world?" she murmured. When Eleanor opened the box, 5 tiny Border Collie puppies, their black and white coats still fluffy and new, were huddled together, trembling. They couldn't have been more than a few days old. It had been 10 years since she started living alone in this small Appalachian town. A few years back, a bitter fight with Mayor Thompson over the property line by the creek had turned the town against her. The rumor spread fast that Eleanor Vance is a difficult woman. Better to keep your distance. Ever since, whether she was at the farmer's market or the community center, no one would meet her eye. The truth was, the property line dispute wasn't her fault. Mayor Thompson, while clearing his land with a small tractor after a storm, had knocked over an old stone marker. He then insisted the new, altered line was where it had always been, but the townspeople sided with the mayor, a man who had held his position for years and made generous donations to the community hall. 5 years ago, her own cousin, Kevin, had scammed her. "Eleanor, you've got to invest in this," he'd said with a charming smile. "It's a new organic farming technology. You'll double your money in a year. It's the future." She was fooled by his sweet words, even signing the official-looking papers he brought. He took the money and disappeared. When she reported it to the sheriff, she was told it was a civil matter, and there was little they could do. How could I have been such a fool? The memory stung every time it surfaced. She had doted on Kevin since he was a boy, raising him like her own son after his parents passed away. To be betrayed like that felt like a knife in her heart. She managed to get by, growing tomatoes, corn, and squash in her small remaining garden. But every year brought a new challenge. Floods, droughts, or pests always seemed to find their way to her patch of land. Last year, a late frost killed half her tomato plants. The year before, a drought withered the corn. Does heaven itself have it out for me? Eleanor often thought. And now, on a chilly morning like this, who would abandon these puppies? She scanned the area, but there wasn't a soul in sight, not even a single footprint on the damp ground. She walked to the edge of town but saw no one. "All right, little ones, who left you here?" As Eleanor lifted the box, the puppies squirmed, trying to make themselves smaller. They were hungry, their cries weak. Each one was barely the size of her palm, their fur still baby soft. She brought them inside, warmed some milk, and fed them with a small bottle. One by one, as their bellies filled, they grew quiet and drifted off to sleep. Watching them, a warmth she hadn't felt in years stirred in her heart. "Now, what am I going to do with you?" she sighed, her mind racing. It was hard enough just getting by on her own. How could she afford to raise 5 puppies? But she couldn't bring herself to abandon these tiny, fragile lives. She remembered her old dog, Buddy. He was a stray she'd taken in, and for 15 years he had been her loyal companion before passing of old age. In the end, Eleanor made a makeshift bed for the puppies in a sheltered space behind her house, using old blankets and another cardboard box. Just for a few days, she told herself, someone is bound to come looking for them. She covered the space with a plastic tarp to keep the wind out and set down bowls for water and food. Strangely, that evening, the water from the old hand pump well in her yard seemed clearer than usual. Water that had been murky for months was now, as if by magic, crystal clear. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Eleanor wondered, shaking her head, but when she took a sip, the water tasted sweeter and colder than she could ever remember. A week passed. Every morning at 5 o'clock sharp, Eleanor would wake up and head straight to the backyard. "Morning, pups, did you sleep well?" At the sound of her voice, they would wag their tails with joyous energy. Just seeing them was enough to brighten her entire day. That long-forgotten warmth was returning. Soon, they moved from milk to soft food. She would mash up kibble with warm milk and watch as the 5 of them crowded around the bowl. Their faces pressed together. "Easy now, there's plenty for everyone," she'd say with a chuckle, stroking their backs. The puppies developed their own personalities. The biggest one, the most dependable, was Rusty. When the others squabbled, he was the peacekeeper. Sonny, the smartest, would jaw his spot at the milk bowl if another puppy was struggling. The fourth, Pip, was the most mischievous, always bouncing around and starting games of chase with Scout, the smallest, who tried his best to keep up. The strange occurrences continued. The tomato and squash plants, which had been sickly and yellowing just days before, were now vibrant green and full of life. The crops closest to where the puppies played seemed especially lush. That's odd, Eleanor mused, looking over her garden. I barely used any fertilizer this year. The leaves were a deep, glossy green, and the stems grew thick and strong. The attitude of the townspeople also began to shift. At first, they whispered, "Look at that old woman, taking in more strays." But soon, the sight of the adorable puppies won them over. The town's children made it a daily routine to peek over Eleanor's fence on their way home from school. "Ma'am, what are the puppies' names?" a young boy named Leo asked one day. Mustering his courage, Eleanor was taken aback. It had been years since she'd spoken to any of the town's children. They had always been afraid of her, echoing the words of their parents. But the puppies were helping them open their hearts. "They don't have names yet," she said, her voice softer than she intended. "Why don't you help me name them?" The children's eyes lit up. "The big one is Rusty. The smart one is Sunny. The cute one is Maple. The mischievous one is Pip. And the little one is Scout," they shouted. And Eleanor felt a genuine smile spread across her face. The sound of their innocent laughter was a balm to her soul. But caring for the puppies brought financial worries. Food, vet visits, and vaccinations would cost money. So, Eleanor decided to grow even more vegetables. Fortunately, the crops were doing so well this year. It gave her hope. One day, Eleanor was weeding her garden with the puppies running around her feet. "Grandma's got to work hard so she can buy you pups some dinner," she said to them. As she worked, a miracle happened. From the very spot where the puppies had been playing, water began to bubble up from the ground. A stream of clear water trickled out, forming a small, pristine spring. "Well, I'll be," Eleanor said, astonished. She cupped her hands and drank the water. It was as sweet and cold as a mountain spring, tasting exactly like the water from the old spring up on the mountain her mother used to take her to. When she started using that water on her garden, the crops grew even more vigorously. Her tomatoes were large and brilliantly red, her potatoes plump and round. Compared to the neighboring gardens, Eleanor's vegetables were in a league of their own. There were no pests, and every leaf shone with life. Could it be because of these puppies? Eleanor said to herself. Ever since they arrived, only good things had happened. Of course, she could dismiss it as a coincidence, but it felt like something special was at work. As dusk fell, she ate dinner in the yard with the puppies. A meal that was once lonely and tasteless now felt immeasurably warm. Just by having 5 wagging tails beside her. "I'm so glad you all came to me," she whispered, stroking their heads. A few days later, however, while Eleanor was at the market, something strange happened. When she returned, she found unfamiliar footprints in her yard, and the puppies were unusually on edge. Did someone come by, she wondered? But nothing seemed out of place. Yet the puppies kept staring at the gate, whining uneasily. That night, a new rumor started circulating in town. "I heard those dogs of Eleanor's have an owner. And they're some kind of expensive, purebred dogs." Eleanor's heart sank. She couldn't bear the thought of losing them now. When the puppies were about a month old, Eleanor decided to sell her produce at the farmer's market. This year's harvest was so abundant she couldn't possibly eat it all herself. Got to earn money for the pups' food, she resolved. She arrived at the market, spread her blanket, and laid out her vegetables. People passing by were immediately drawn to them. "Oh my, look at the color on these tomatoes. These potatoes are all so perfectly shaped." But the real surprise came when a middle-aged woman tasted one of her tomatoes and her eyes went wide. "Wow, this is no ordinary tomato. It's sweet and has such a deep, rich flavor." She ended up buying a whole box. The word spread like wildfire. "That old woman's vegetables are unbelievably delicious. They're organic, but how are they so juicy?" Soon, a line formed at her stall. By noon, she had sold almost everything. "We'll be back next week, Eleanor," a woman said with a smile. "You've got a regular customer in me." Eleanor's heart swelled with a pride she hadn't felt in a long time. On her way home, she felt lighter than air. "Pups, I'm home. We did good today," she called out as she opened the gate. The 5 puppies came running, their tails wagging furiously. In that moment, Eleanor felt like she had everything in the world. A few days later, an unfamiliar black sedan appeared in town. A middle-aged man in a suit got out and started asking the townspeople questions. Eleanor watched from her window with a growing sense of dread. She saw him talking to Mayor Thompson for a long time. Then, the mayor pointed directly at her house. The next day, the way people looked at her had changed again. The smiles were gone, replaced by suspicious glances. Whispers followed her at the community center. I heard those dogs are very valuable, and the real owner is looking for them. Maybe Eleanor stole them. It was the same suffocating atmosphere from years ago. But Eleanor had no intention of giving up the puppies. Let them say what they want. She muttered to herself, I'm the one who found them. Who saved them? What's wrong with that? Another change was happening in town. The rumor of the spring water in Eleanor's yard had spread, and people started coming by quietly to fill up bottles. I swear, after drinking that water, my joints feel better, one person would say to another. One evening, there was a knock on her door. Who is it? Eleanor called out. Good evening, a man's voice replied. I'm here about the puppies. May I have a word with you? In that instant, Eleanor's heart froze. The moment she had been dreading was here. Her hands trembled as she rushed to the back of the house to check on the puppies. All 5 were on high alert. Their ears perked. Rusty was letting out a low growl, positioning himself in front of his siblings. Ma'am, please open the door. I'm not a threat, the man said politely, but Eleanor's past experiences made her wary. She opened the door just a crack. The security chain still fastened. A man in his 50s, wearing a neat suit, stood there with a file in his hands. Good evening, ma'am. My name is Daniel Davis. He began. I was told you found some puppies a few weeks ago. What about them? Eleanor asked, her voice tight. Well, you see, those are my dogs. They're a special bloodline, you know. Each one is worth several $1,000s. Davis pulled a sheaf of papers from his file. Here are the pedigree certificates and ownership papers. Eleanor squinted at the documents, but the print was too small for her to read clearly. Then why were such expensive dogs abandoned in a box in front of my gate? She asked skeptically. About that, he said smoothly. I run a breeding kennel out of state. One of my employees made a mistake and they got loose during transport. We've been searching for days. His story didn't sit right. Can you prove they're your dogs? Davis's expression hardened slightly. Ma'am, why would I need to lie? These papers are all the proof I need. But Eleanor wouldn't back down. Do you have any idea how small they were? They were newborns. Their eyes weren't even fully open. A professional breeder would never let that happen. Davis stammered. Well, the mother had just given birth. There was a mix-up during the move. From the backyard, the puppies began to cry. A frightened sound she'd never heard before. That settled it for Eleanor. I'm sorry, but I don't believe you. Those puppies were clearly abandoned, and I raised them with my own 2 hands. Legally, ma'am, I am the rightful owner. Davis's tone grew forceful. I just want them back peacefully. Eleanor gripped the door. No, they are my family now. If you insist on being difficult, I'll have to involve the sheriff or take legal action, he threatened. Then do it, she retorted, her voice trembling but firm. But I will never give them up. Davis paused, then suddenly changed his tactic, forcing a smile. All right, then, let's do this. I'll pay you for your trouble. How about $500 per puppy? Eleanor's anger flared. Don't you dare try to solve this with money. They are more precious to me than any amount of money. Ma'am, stop being so stubborn, he said, his patience gone. They're coming back to me one way or another. He then added a chilling remark. By the way, the people in this town already know the situation. What do you mean? Just ask your mayor. I've explained everything to him. With a smirk, Davis turned and walked away. I'll be back tomorrow. Think it over. After he left, Eleanor felt her legs give out. She checked on the puppies, who were thankfully safe, but they huddled close to her, sensing the danger. It's okay, little ones, she vowed, hugging them tightly. Grandma will protect you. I won't let anyone take you away. That night, she couldn't sleep. The next morning, something unbelievable had happened. The old shovel that always leaned against the shed was gone. And so was Pip. Pip, Eleanor cried, searching frantically. Her desperate calls echoed through the quiet morning mist. The 4 remaining puppies whined, sensing their brother was missing. Scout, who was closest to Pip, paced anxiously around the spot where he usually slept. Eleanor searched the entire town, from the woods behind her house to the banks of the creek. Pip, where are you? It's me, she called until her voice was hoarse. But there was no reply. The townspeople watched from a distance but offered no help. All she heard were whispers, that old woman's losing her mind over those dogs. Mayor Thompson actively avoided her gaze. Half a day of searching yielded nothing. Exhausted, Eleanor sat down in her yard. Was she mistaken? Was he really gone? She checked the backyard one more time. No Pip. Just then, the remaining puppies began acting strangely. Rusty kept trying to lead her toward the town's entrance. What is it, Rusty? She asked. Following him, he led her to an old, dilapidated barn on the edge of town, a place that hadn't been used in years. "Pip, are you in there?" Her heart pounded as she cautiously stepped inside the dusty, dim interior. "Pip, is that you?" A small whimper came from a dark corner. It was him. She rushed over and found Pip with his leg caught in a rusty old trap. "Oh, you poor thing." She carefully freed him. He was frightened but not seriously injured. As she stood up, her foot hit something hard on the floor. It was a half-buried wooden box. Curiosity piqued. She dug it out and pried it open. Inside were stacks of documents, a savings passbook, and a thick envelope of cash. She froze when she saw the name on the passbook, Kevin. Her cousin. With trembling hands, she looked through the papers. It was some of the money he had taken from her. And more importantly, the original deed to her land. At the bottom of the box was an old, sealed letter. It was from Kevin. She opened it, and tears immediately streamed down her face. "Eleanor," the letter began, "I'm so sorry. I truly meant to invest the money. But the business failed. I've spent these last few years trying to save up enough to pay you back. But I got sick. I don't have much time left." The letter continued, "I wanted to do one last thing for you. I bought these puppies from a breeder. I know how much you loved your old dog, Buddy, and I couldn't stand the thought of you being all alone. I couldn't bring them to you myself. I knew you would never forgive me, so I had someone else leave them for you. I hope they can ease your loneliness, even just a little." Eleanor collapsed, sobbing. The letter explained everything. Kevin was gone. The puppies were his final gift. "Oh, Kevin, you fool," she cried aloud. The mystery of the puppies, the good fortune, the clear water, it was all Kevin's last act of love. The letter also held a warning. "There's a man named Daniel Davis. He was my partner, but I don't trust him. He only sees the puppies as a way to make money. He knows they have a special quality. Their mother was a wild dog who lived in the national forest. Raised on medicinal herbs. There are old local legends about springhounds like them. Dogs that can find pure water and bring life to the land. If Davis comes to you, please, don't ever give him up. They will be happiest with you." Holding the letter and the deed, Eleanor knew what she had to do. The next morning, she walked to the sheriff's office. She ignored the whispers of the townspeople. The officer was shocked when he saw Kevin's letter and the documents. "Ma'am, this is incredible," he said. "This is new evidence in that old fraud case. We can also confirm that Kevin passed away from cancer last year. With this, you have a very good chance of recovering your property." On her way back, Eleanor stopped at Mayor Thompson's house. "Mr. Mayor, we need to talk." He looked uneasy. "Eleanor, what is it?" "A man came to see me about the puppies yesterday. Daniel Davis. What did he say to you?" The mayor stammered. He said he was the rightful owner. He showed me papers." "Mr. Mayor," Eleanor said, her voice steady and clear, "did you take money from him?" His face turned beet red. "What? Of course not. Tell me the truth. I know everything." She held out Kevin's letter. The mayor crumbled. He offered me $100 for each dog. Eleanor felt a deep sadness. More than anger. Just then, the mayor's wife came out and fell to her knees before Eleanor. "Eleanor, we are so sorry. We were wrong. We've misunderstood you for so long." The mayor finally hung his head. "She's right, Eleanor. I was wrong. The property line, that was my fault, too. I've been carrying the guilt for years." As he spoke, a loud noise came from the street. Daniel Davis was back, this time in a pickup truck with a large cage in the back. 2 other men were with him. "Old woman, I'm done waiting," he yelled. Eleanor walked out to meet him. "Your lies are over, Mr. Davis. I know who you are." She held up Kevin's letter. He faltered for a second, then sneered. "A fake letter proves nothing." "Then let's have the sheriff take a look," she said confidently. Just then, Mayor Thompson stepped forward. "This man is a swindler," he shouted to the crowd of townspeople who had gathered. "He tried to bribe me." The mood shifted instantly. "Don't you touch Eleanor's dogs," someone yelled. "Get out of our town." Davis, realizing he had lost, scrambled back toward his truck. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." "You'll be hearing from the sheriff," shouted the fire chief, stepping in front of him, "for fraud and attempted theft." Seeing he was cornered, Davis and his men jumped in their truck and sped away. The townspeople surrounded Eleanor, their voices full of warmth and apology. "Eleanor, we're so sorry. We never knew." Tears welled up in her eyes as the children ran to her. "Are the puppies okay?" they asked. "Yes," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Rusty, Sunny, Maple, Pip, and Scout are all safe." That evening, the town held a small gathering at the community center. They apologized to Eleanor, and she in turn, opened her heart to them. Back at home, Eleanor sat in her yard with the 5 puppies and reread Kevin's letter under the moonlight. "You foolish, wonderful boy," she whispered, "why didn't you just tell me sooner?" The years of resentment washed away, replaced by a bittersweet gratitude. A final page of the letter caught her eye. "By the way, Eleanor, the mother of these puppies was named Lucky. It reminded me of your old buddy. Maybe, just maybe, Buddy sent them to you from heaven." A shiver ran down her spine. It felt true. "Buddy," she whispered to the sky. "Was this you?" The puppies all looked up at her and wagged their tails, as if to say, "We're here to protect you now." Her life was transformed. With the money and the deed Kevin left, she reclaimed her full property. The spring in her yard became a town landmark. Her vegetables, now famous as Eleanor's Gold, sold out at every market. Mayor Thompson became her closest friend, often helping her in the garden. One evening, a local TV crew came to her door. "We heard your story," a young reporter said. "It's so beautiful, may we interview you?" On camera, Eleanor told her story honestly. When asked what the biggest change the puppies brought was, she replied, "Laughter. They brought laughter back into my house. And they helped me connect with people again. Most of all, they make me look forward to the morning." "Any final message for our viewers?" the reporter asked. Eleanor stroked Sonny's head. "Every life is precious, even the ones that are thrown away. If you give love, it will come back to you tenfold. And never, ever think it's too late. A new beginning is always possible." The seasons turned. One crisp autumn evening, Eleanor sat in her yard, watching the stars with her 5 loyal companions. "Thank you, Kevin, thank you, Buddy," she said softly, "because of the gift you sent. I am the richest woman in the world." That night, she slept more peacefully than she had in over a decade. In her dreams, a young Kevin and her old dog Buddy stood together, waving and smiling. The next morning, a small, bright rainbow arched over her garden, where 5 beautiful Border Collie puppies were chasing the morning light. Eleanor smiled. "I used to think my life was a forgotten thing," she said, her voice warm in the morning air. "But I was wrong. The gift was always coming. It was just a little late." 70.6s